Hi, everybody. This is Chris.
This is Matt.
This is Legacy of the Ancients, and this is not a review. If you're joining us for the first time, every month we pick a game. This month was Legacy of the Ancients. We play the game for the month, come back, talk about our feelings, our thoughts, our experiences, compare it to other games, and maybe go off the rails. So that's what you're getting in for. I have a feeling this is going to be an interesting discussion.
Yeah, I was all over the map on, no pun intended, on Legacy of the Ancients. But I, it, let's kind of talk about the history of it. It came out in 1987.
Mm-hmm.
It's by John and Charles Doherty, who made Questron in
Yes.
1984. So this is 3 years later. It looks about 3 years better than Questron, I would say.
Yep. This is their
Um,
second game of the four games they made. Made Questron, Legacy of the Ancients, Questron 2 when they realized they had a contract with SSI, they needed to go back, and then Legend of Black Silver.
yeah, did you ever play Legend of Black Silver?
I haven't yet.
Legend of Black Silver is close to being a sequel to Legacy of the Ancients, I think, without being a direct sequel.
Mm, That's what I've heard.
Which is what you could say about Legacy of the Ancients and Questron as
Yeah,
well, because they're really, really, really similar. And I
really
think
similar.
throughout this, I mean, just looking at it, like you can tell this is really similar to Questron, which if you haven't played, I think might be the best of their games.
Without playing Questron 2 or Legend of Black Silver, I can't answer that.
Oh yeah, I haven't played Legend of Black Silver. I think I read an interview with I think it was Charles Doherty who said he thought Legend of Black Silver was their best game. So
Okay.
maybe we should put that on our list of things to play.
Yes, absolutely. Um, Graphically, this is better in every way.
Yeah,
The mini games make
especially
more sense.
minigames make no sense. The dungeons I think is really where you appreciate how much better this looks
Yes.
than Questron, because Questron was wireframe.
Hmm.
And then they just like paste the monster right over top of.
You were attacked by staplers.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and they look like staplers, and you could see like the lines through the monsters and everything. So it wasn't really good. So, but in Legacy of the Ancients, it's all filled in. It
mhm.
looks nice, um, and I think that's the first thing when I booted this up that jumped out at me was that this is a really polished version of this game engine.
Yes.
You get a nice intro screen. The sound is really good. It's a nice
Yeah.
game.
Um, yeah, that was sort of my first take too when I first loaded it up is like, oh, this is Questron but polished. And it is right down to the story beats of you walk around a big continent, you finally unlock dungeons, you do 3 dungeons, you go to a second continent, you in between there you have to kill everybody in the good castle and then kill everybody in the bad castle at the end.
Mhm.
And that's the game. That's
Yep,
it's ba-dum, 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 ba-dum.
you get an unusual mount to progress. Like this is
There's a weird old wizardy guy who wants to talk to you about things and help you on your way, but you don't know why. Yeah. This is Questron, but
yeah. So would you, if someone hasn't played any of these four games, who would you recommend this game for?
I would recommend this game for someone who, if they've never played like any RPG, they've never played one.
Mhm.
Um, and you want to get them into your history, maybe start here before Questron.
Right.
Maybe.
That that is exactly the answer I would have given too, because this thing is so gentle to the user. It's so gentle. There's not really any significant puzzles. They're they're telegraphed to you. The manual is just full of hints that they're not even really hints. They're just like telling you what to do and how to be successful. Combat, we're going to probably talk more about combat, but it's perfunctory at best.
Yeah.
You can probably play this game without really engaging in overland world combat. And there's not a lot of commands. The interface is really simple. This is like the best game for someone who is just starting out.
And now I play this with. Do you play this with the joystick or do you play this with the keyboard?
Yeah, totally joystick.
It struck me that like you could put this game on, an Xbox or something. Like you could put it on there and play the whole thing with the controller and not lose any of the experience.
Yeah, I was expecting to have to use the keyboard, and like you technically.
And yet this never went to a console. That's the other thing.
Right. Yeah, this would have been a great Nintendo game. But I went back and forth. Like there's gambling in just like in Questron. There's some different kinds of gambling. There's this game called Flip Flop, which is kind of like Plinko from The Price is Right, where a ball kind of drops down and hits these arrows. And I don't know if you'll have it in here, but it ends up in a bucket.
Play it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's worth looking at, and it's kind of interesting, but it's not super fun, and it's kind of annoying. And if you want to make money, you should totally just play blackjack. But anyway,
Plinko would have been fun if you didn't have to guess the bucket, because that's the game aspect of Plinko. Is it drops down to these arrows instead of like narrowing down. It like each arrow pushes in a different direction, and the arrows flip back and forth. Hence flip flop. And you have to guess 1 through 6 going outwards. Which bucket is it going to land in?
Right. So you can know the path that the puck is going to take in flip flop. Like that's the game. That's why it's kind of a game of skill.
But they change while you're going, so you might not.
Right.
And so go on.
I was just going to say that it's not really rewarding, and I didn't find it particularly fun.
No, because it can change on you. So even if you know what you're doing, it can just hose you. And then because the reward, you only get the reward if you guess right, but the reward is based on what bucket it goes in anyway. So, like, there's nothing you can do with this. I liked high or low from Questron better, where it just flashes back and forth and you hit a button to stop it.
Right, totally. Yeah. The Questron was better for the non-blackjack game. The other thing I didn't like about Flip Flop is that there's a mechanic in here where you can break the bank, where if you win too much, and really, I think the only way you're going to do that with Flip Flop is if you're save scumming.
Yeah.
Which I totally was. But the problem is if you're betting, 500 gold and you get a good flip flop and you get 4 times your prize or something, you don't know when you're going to break the bank. Whereas with blackjack, you can kind of get a feel like I've won too many times. I need to be cool.
Yeah,
and
head
not.
out.
Yeah. So yeah, there's blackjack, there's flip flop, and then there's 2 skill games. What did you think of those? 3?
There's a third one you didn't get to yet.
Oh, okay.
So the 2 skill games are essentially the same skill games, and this is where I said they made sense to me, at least compared to when you look back at Questron. Like there's some skeet shooting thing you do in one of the things in Questron, but in this one, they put you in the middle of an arena and shoot fireballs at you. Get your armor up, they give you a shield, and you got to block the fireballs. To get your weapons up, they give you a crossbow, and you got to shoot the fireballs.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, lore-wise, I can get behind this.
Mm-hmm.
It's still weird, but I can, you know what I mean? I can accept it and wrap my head around it. But they're essentially the same game, except weapons are slightly harder because you also have to shoot. And if you hold the button down to do all of it, sometimes an arrow will be going off in a way that doesn't have a fireball, and that's going to bite you. So
Yeah, I hate it. I tried it holding the button down, and it drove me nuts, and it threw my timing off. You're way better off just hitting the direction, hitting the button, and then going to the next fireball.
And
But after a while, I think it gets prohibitive. Like right around level 6, I would say
I
it
was gonna,
starts to get too
yeah,
hard.
I was gonna say in the emulator, I got to 6, and like 5 or 6, I would cap out at. When I played as a kid on the main machine with an old Atari joystick, I could get to 9.
Wow.
So I think there's part of that within the emulator that's um. But here's the other thing with the emulator, and I thought about doing this. I didn't. I might tonight, and we'll talk about why afterwards, because I have had a fundamental problem with this game that I didn't have until literally, I think, yesterday. I think we both hit the same problem yesterday, and I want to talk about that later. But since it's on an emulator, you can just ratchet down the speed. Like, you
Right.
just go, and you can do that with flip flop too. You can take the speed and go, and
Yeah.
really know what's going to happen. And then there is in here, and hopefully I'll get to show it later. There's a third skill game that raises your intelligence in the museum. We need
Right.
to talk about the museum, but there's a third game in the museum that's called Liar's Dice. Yeah,
Yeah, that's not what they call it in the game, but
Stones of Wisdom.
it
Yeah.
is essentially the game Liar's Dice, which I'm a big fan of. Like I've always really enjoyed that game. I used to play it with the serial numbers on dollar bills for
Oh
money
yeah,
at
yeah,
work.
yeah.
That was fun. Like
Yeah.
everyone gets a dollar and you look at all the numbers and then you wager. Uh,
Who has
yeah,
more of twos or more fives? Or
yeah,
what I didn't like about the Liar's Dice is it didn't. So you had to get a special coin to unlock the exhibit, and then every time, even to try it, you had to use the coin. And so once you used the coin, if you left and came back, you had to find another coin. We will talk about that. Um,
yeah.
uh, and then you had to pay gold on top of it to keep playing the game. I
Right.
understood why you had to pay at the other places, but the museum is like double shaking you down here, and it only can give you like two points a try. Where if I go do the uh, weapon one or the shield one, like I can take it as far as I can take it, and then I'm done for 50 gold. This is to raise your intelligence. You're going to have to jack it up. Which, that said, I didn't find intelligence to be that useful in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, the other stats are slightly more
More
useful.
useful.
But one thing that struck me like about the Fireball games,
Mm-hmm.
I'm at the other shop paying $30 a pop for fireballs, and they're launching like 100 at me and charging me 50 gold. Like, how is that a business model? That's a terrible, terrible business
that
model.
that is such a fantastic observation. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's like this is expensive.
You're not getting your 50 out of this. You got to figure like a bunch of guys like go and pay 50 and they just get smoked in the first.
I suppose, yeah,
It's volume. They make it up in volume.
they must, yeah,
Yeah, they dread you at the buffet, but
right,
it's the other guys who pay for you. Um, not you specifically, you in general.
right. The
Teenage me
general
for
you.
sure.
Oh God, yeah, yeah.
Oh my god.
Anyway, let's not get into a buffet talk. We've been accused of trying to convert our whole channel into a
Food.
snacking channel.
Yeah, it's a thing for me lately.
Yeah.
The Overworld. I want to spend some time on this because looking at it, you can tell this is far more polished and clean and smooth. The coastline, I think, is the smoothest I've seen in any Commodore game. Um, and it's because they chopped the tiles into half tiles. So it's
Hmm.
like there's 4 for every tile, as opposed to like in Ultima, you'd move huge blocks.
Right.
Um, and even though it looks nicer than Questron from here, the map is boring.
Yeah, it's really boring. Geographically, it's just kind of a mishmash. There's nothing new. Like you can see all the tiles pretty much right away.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice that they all make little different noises. That's
Yes,
cool.
there's
Uh,
an audio ambiance that's nice. You hear the ocean waves when you're next to the ocean. You hear the squish in the swamp. You hear a noise when you're in the desert. Um,
yeah, I gotta say, like, they start you in the museum, and I was like, wow, you can hear these exhibits as you get closer to them.
Yes.
That's fantastic. But I got real sick of that noise, that exhibit fuzz noise. It started to drive me crazy. And when you're like doing other things and it's just in your ears, it makes you feel like you're gonna go insane. It was starting to really get to me.
The sound in this game is good, but there's with no music to contrast it against, it does get to you.
Yeah.
And like I don't know if I would put music in this game though because there's so little else. It's hard to say. Would you put music in this game? I guess maybe.
I like, aside from the fuzz of the museum exhibits.
Hmm.
I liked the sound enough that I think it could stand on its own. Maybe some little musical interludes would be nice,
Hmm.
but I don't think it needs a whole soundtrack or anything a la Ultima.
Something like Knox, where when you go into a city, you get a little ditty, or you come out, you get a little, something
Yeah,
like that would be kind of cool.
yeah,
But yeah, I was trying to picture with as much walking around and nothing happening, having a song play. It has to be a very good song. It has to be,
right,
like in Ultima 3, this thing's going to be stuck in your head forever, and you're going to be okay with that. It has to be that level of something, because
yeah. And talking about the overland map again. Sorry, I got
yeah,
off on the tangent about the sound design. Um, the other thing that I found very boring about the overland map, and I think this might be the biggest weakness of the game, is the combat system.
it's not
It's
that far from Questron though, really.
it's not that far from Questron, and Questron didn't have the best combat system
No.
either. I feel like it's a little easier to escape from monsters in this one. I feel like
Yeah.
it telegraphs to you a little more when monsters are coming, whereas in Questron you could find yourself in a jam,
Yeah.
Um, but this, like I said, this game is so gentle to the user.
Hmm.
It's like a monster's coming, and then you can speak to the monster and maybe it'll sell you something, or you can just walk away.
Yeah.
Or if you get ambushed, you can just run away by taking a step. Like,
Hmm.
you really don't have to fight. And if you do, you early game, if you have a magic spell, it's like a guaranteed kill if the spell works.
Right.
So you don't have a lot of skin in the game combat wise.
No, but I want to talk about two things combat wise that I think are really worth pointing out. One, the monsters are region specific. So if you're in the mountains, you're going to fight mountain monsters. If you're in the desert, you're going to fight desert monsters, and water and woods and all that. So when you're looking at the map, you don't feel a lot of difference. But when those combats happen in different ways, like you may be like, man, I don't want to deal with, you know, mountain level monsters. I want to stay on the grass and deal with some of these. You really get to make that choice. The thing is, very quickly, you don't care. You just don't care. Mountains do need climbing gear. That's something worth mentioning too. We should circle back to.
Yeah.
Um, but the other thing, you can eat the monsters.
Yes. And sometimes they make you sick, and sometimes you
Yep.
don't get sick.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a great mechanic, and I was delighted when it asked me if I wanted to eat them. The other thing I love about this series of games is that they never lean on traditional monster tropes.
No.
There's not, I don't think there's like trolls. There's nothing like that. There are all these kind of, there's like weirds. There's
Yeah.
this whole family of weirds and
Hmm.
uh just really strange monsters that you don't see in any other games. It's not derivative at all. I love that about all these games.
Yeah.
Questron 2 had, uh,
Like Tendro Snapper.
yeah, right. They're great. They're usually two words,
Hmm.
and they're kind of like grouped into categories. I love that. grappler. Uh, but and like and the thing about the combat too is in early game you really get, if you try to fight you get dinged up really easily. So
Hmm.
you end up running a lot, and healing is kind of prohibitive in early game because not every town has a healer. So
And it's
there's this
expensive to heal when you don't have the money.
right. And so the whole like the net effect of all these things is that you are totally disincentivized from engaging in combat. uh, and
Almost
actually
always.
yeah, I don't mind the combat mechanic either. It's one button.
Hmm.
You just stand there and swing it out, and it's fine because I don't think that these old games don't need robust combat systems.
There's one thing they tried to do, and I want to point it out. Um, it just failed to be useful, and that was certain weapons will be a monster's weakness. If you have that weapon, it will be the monster's weakness. The problem is you don't have access to all the weapons right away. It's Ultima 1 style, where as time goes on, the stores have better and better weapons. This
Right.
is possibly one of my greatest pet peeves of when RPGs do this. When they don't just level lock you from stuff, you don't get it. It doesn't exist. You can't find it. You don't. It's just not something you're going to have. And I understand, like, maybe you've got to do something to unlock it, but this is just a time gate. You just got to wait until bows and arrows show up. You just got to wait until better armor shows up. And it takes a long time. Like,
I always thought it was gated by the things that you do in the game. Like when you get to level 2, you suddenly get better. I'm not sure, but I
I
think what
I think leveling can help. I would have to we'd have to look into the code. I think leveling can help, but I know I've also done things where I've gotten new levels and I still haven't unlocked certain things. So like,
yeah, it, I think and I said like the combat is probably the biggest weakness of this game, the fact that it's unnecessary. But I think underneath that really is a larger problem that character advancement is not good at all. So you can't go from town to town trying to find the coolest weapon. That's
hmm
not a thing that you can do. You can't grind up levels. Uh, Gold, you're probably gonna get through blackjack because if you know some basic blackjack strategy, the dealer doesn't take ties, so it's like 50-50, you know?
yeah, if you know basically, I'd say even greater than that because the
Yeah,
dealer doesn't take ties. Um, because like
right.
if you
And
can count cards in real life, if you can count cards and know everything you're supposed to do, it's a 51% your favor, but you have to be super good.
you have to
So
be flawless, yeah.
yeah, and that's where the dealer does take ties.
Right.
And so yeah, this isn't that, which means
Yeah. So what are you doing from a character advancement? You're looking for the mini games, and really, I again, like I think you're just going to hit a point where you just can't do it
yeah,
anymore, and
yeah.
that's it. Like that's where your dex is going to be. It's not like your dex goes up and you can shoot the arrows faster or anything. Like that's where you're going to be at for dex and
Hmm.
intelligence. Maybe not so much intelligence. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, no, intelligence too. I mean, there comes a point. So after 30 intelligence, every time you pay 50, instead of it going up by 2, it goes up by 1. So there comes a point where it's just not worth your time, energy, or effort to sit and do that. You
right.
might still be as good skill wise because it doesn't get more complicated, but it does. I don't know.
So yeah. So
And
the
if you
I think
screw up in these, you lose stats too. By the way.
right, right. Uh, but also in the poor advancement category, you have the weird pacing with money where you have none at the beginning and
Hmm.
then suddenly have so much more than you could ever use. And at that point, you're just like you're buying herbs
Mm-hmm.
and you're buying tons of spells, and that's it. And if your intelligence is kind of low and your spells fizzle, it doesn't really matter because you've got so many of them.
Yeah. I could have forgiven the bad advancement if, like Questron, your hit points weren't tied to your level.
Right.
Like if I could
Questron, you could
just,
walk around with 1,000 hit points.
yeah. And at the end, you're walking around with 10,000 hit points, and stuff was hitting you for 3,000 hit points, and he's like, it felt epic. Like we talked
Yeah.
about that, how those last dungeons, you felt like I am somewhere beyond the realm of mortal men.
Right.
You never feel that in this, and that's okay. But because they tie it to your level, you get stuck waiting for things to happen. Um, and I want to talk about that getting stuck, but did you take out a loan from the loan shark?
I never did. No. Instead, I saved Scum Blackjack. Here's an interesting tidbit. The Blackjack is not RNG at all. There's no randomness to it. So if you enter a Blackjack game, win, and then you lose, if you go back and reload it, you'll get the exact same hand, and you'll get. And like I had a series where I tied like 3 times and then lost, and I had the exact same playthrough every time. So it's all predetermined. So it's real easy to save scum it.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I never did. Did you?
I did. I actually, that's a good way for me to get my start, is I'll go do that, and then I'll use it to buy weapons and buy a few things and get started. Then I'll leave, and I'll come back to town, and it'll be like, the loan shark's looking for you. I'm like, yeah, I got your money. Chill out.
Yeah, yeah. One thing I really liked about the cities is that like the guy who buys your used equipment, like basically the pawn broker,
Mm-hmm.
is usually right next to the loan shark guy, and I
Yeah.
thought that was great. And like
Yep.
the fortune tellers usually kind of buy the magic person and the weapons and armor together. The towns are really thoughtfully laid out and have water features, which
Yes.
is
Water
a
features are huge
huge
for us.
huge immersion thing for me.
um, well, I want to go back and talk about the castle and stuff, and we just saw a dungeon here. Um, but I want to talk about this getting stuck thing because, well, first we should talk about the museum. You start out, you wake up after the story in the manual in the Galactic Museum, and the premise is aliens from around the multiverse have museums on different backwater planets. And they come, they look at the exhibits, they might even go out and mingle with the local populace. And they do it through a series of precious coins: topaz, sapphire, amethyst, things like that. So for you to use the museum exhibits, even though the caretaker's trying to help you, you have to go find these coins scattered amongst the populace, which I don't know why they have them, but who cares? I was gonna say we're playing Questron here, but we're not. We're playing Legacy of the Ancients. Yeah, and take these coins back, you plug them in little picture windows, and then those picture windows are uh, lore about the planet and usually something else.
Hmm.
So, like, if you take a topaz coin to the Jotun bush, it'll tell you what the Jotun bush is. If you eat one of the fruit off it, healing herbs now work on you, and you can now you've unlocked that by finding the coin. How do you find the coins? This is the biggest middle finger to all quality gaming gameplay, and it's what ends up shooting this game in the foot.
Well,
Because
the early coins you just buy from vendors around.
early coins you just buy from vendors around if they're selling them.
Right, and that's where I wasted so much time uh, going between cities, just trying to get someone to sell me a fucking jade coin so I can go back to the pirate cove.
Yeah.
Like, please, just sell me a coin. And like, not, and they're usually at the the raft guy.
Mm-hmm.
So not all towns have that,
Yeah.
and it can be a little bit infuriating.
And you can buy them sometimes when you talk to people out on the walk. Never has toss a coin to your Witcher been more meaningful in this
Right.
game. Um,
Help me out with the coin, guys.
so and here's where I lost it. So I went into yesterday. I probably, if I have one coin, maybe 3 hours of gameplay left. maybe. And I had 3 hours to play. I'm like, I can finish this game today. I just need a second sapphire coin. You get the first sapphire coin by going to the pirate cove, going all the way down, coming all the way out. And then you have the first one, and it unlocks a new set of exhibits in the museum. Spoiler alert, I guess. Uh, but you need a second one to take a test, which is another dungeon where you go all the way, where you just got to get out. It's actually the easiest dungeon in the game because it's only one direction. You don't have to go down and out. You just have to go out.
Hmm.
Um, and without that, you can't get this guy to give you tattoos, who lets you go to another place to get the coin for the final exhibit, final dungeon, which gives you the gems you need to go fight the guy in the end castle. I'm like, I'm about 3 hours. I can do this. I spent 3 hours looking for someone to sell me the coin, and no one did.
Yeah. And what do you do?
What do you do?
Right.
Uh, in my teens, I just keep playing and enjoying walking around the world and building up gold and fighting things and maybe robbing towns to take out my frustration occasionally. But
Yeah, I definitely robbed Market Square.
oh god, I loved robbing Market Square as a
It
kid.
was so easy.
It's so much fun too.
Yep, I think I had to
Um,
fight like 4 guards to get out, and it was
yeah.
fine. Yeah,
Uh,
and that's like you spend a lot of time just doing that, and maybe like the jade and the
Topaz.
topaz are pretty easy to find, but even those were giving me a hard time.
Well, and I think the longer you go, the more these guys start selling you stuff. But even in that 3 hours I'm talking about, I ended up with like 3 topaz coins, 2 jade coins, and a couple amethyst coins. I'm like, that's great. I need a sapphire coin right now.
Right.
You should know this. Sell me a sapphire coin.
Yeah. I did think as a mechanic though, the museum was really great
Yes.
because for one it starts you in a safe place.
Mm-hmm.
Two, it gives you lore dumps in a way that makes perfect sense in the story, where it's not tacked on or exposition or whatever. You're just like looking at the exhibit. Um, and like if you're new to these games, it's the perfect place to start to learn how to map with graph paper because
Yes.
it tells you the direction you're facing. Uh, there's plenty of landmarks around. You're not going to get like super lost. It's
No
really
monsters.
no monsters. It's a great way to start with a map. And if you map any of this, I would say
Mm-hmm.
map the museum if you're interested in that at all.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're gonna do mapping, map the museum. Um, I normally I'm like you should map all the stuff because it paces how you get through the game by having to map each level because your level isn't tied to what you've done that way. Screw it, look up the maps.
Yeah,
I
I think
got no I would feel no shame in that for people.
I would say like if to I wouldn't advocate mapping the overland world because
No.
you get a sense really easily from where you are and where the towns are, so you don't
Mm-hmm.
need to map that. Map the museum. I would just keep a list of what's in each town because they're
Mm-hmm.
not that big, but you do often want to know if the town nearby is going to have a healer
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah, if
And
you
then map the dungeons if you want or
yeah,
don't.
or don't. Like I don't think you lose anything by not mapping these dungeons and I'm a huge fan of mapping dungeons. The dungeons are uninteresting.
Yeah.
They are. They're 3D mazes. It's fun, but there's not real puzzles in the well, there's mostly not puzzles and what most people wouldn't think of as a puzzle. There's a couple spots at the end of the Pirates Cove and a couple spots in the other dungeons where you got to kind of like go up and down and up,
Mhm.
get through the thing. And that can be puzzly because it'll lead you like, oh, if you take this ladder, you can just go right down to the next level, but that doesn't get you where you need. It takes you to a bunch of dead ends.
Right.
But you backtrack and you figure it out. You're not really, it's not a head scratcher. You're not like, what do I got to do? No, you go back and you find where the rest of the damn dungeon is.
Yeah. I think
Uh,
my overall experience with this, and I feel like we've been pretty negative about Legacy of the Ancients. When I started playing this, I was in love with it. From the second I booted it up, I had a blast. I loved the museum. You know, I mapped the museum out. I was like, oh, you could do mail delivery, and I did a bunch of mail delivery, and I
yeah,
played blackjack, and it was fun. And like finding the mini games is really fun. So it's definitely a fun game. But I think as we played it, because I loved it so much when I started, that as I became aware of kind of the
the
problems and
dents and yeah.
yeah, it really took the shine off of it, and I think I kind of maybe got a little mad about it. Um, but overall, I still do love this game and really liked it. Like I liked my whole time playing it. I wanted to keep playing it.
I wrote a note within 5 minutes of playing this game. And it says, as soon as I saw the museum hall, I was 12 again, playing this all summer between 8th grade and high school, finishing it shortly after starting high school. Remember getting up early to try and finish the Pirate Cove before the bus came. This game is so much its own thing that even after being spawned from an ultimate clone, it holds a specific place in my soul. That's how I
Yep.
felt day one. Yesterday was so frustrating because and this is where, when you're listening to us or anybody else who does reviews, because we don't do reviews here, we do discussions.
Damn straight.
Damn straights. Don't yell at us about it. Um, you got to remember, we're trying to do this on a timetable. We're trying to do this with an eye towards coming and talking about
Right.
it. We are having a completely different experience than you will have playing the game. It's a
Very true.
completely different uh, vibe and feeling and everything else. And even if you pick it up today, you are probably going to pick it up from a ROM site and get it for free, which is a completely different experience than I had when I paid $30 for it, $45 for it, and brought it home and started playing. And we sometimes think that's why I liked Auto Duel as much as I did as a kid, because of that purchase. Like, I bought this in the box.
Right.
I'm gonna make it fun whether I want to or not.
Right. Yeah. It's very true, and it's challenging, and I use it to justify save scumming blackjack and things like that. But I would say, like I thought the death system was very kind,
Yes.
and lended itself well to what we're doing. Like you wake up and some of your shit's gone, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not. I had a question though. Like at one point, you get robbed of the compendium,
Yes.
and they're like, "Oh, just keep going. It's fine." Is it? It's fine, right? That's a plot point of the game.
Yes.
That's not okay. So I should, because I was quite upset about it because the compendium is like your main deal.
Yeah, it's the widget. It's the MacGuffin
Right.
of the game, and it says you've got this scroll that you got from a guy who died. You need to protect it with everything you have, and then a little way in a battle you have no control over, just get dropped to 0 hit points, and they take the scroll.
Yep.
And this is again where they're really good at being gentle to the player, because they tell you, don't worry about it. This is part of the story. We railroaded you at this moment, but it's just for effect.
Right. Carry on, my wayward son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's
Yeah.
something that happened.
Yeah. It's an interesting encounter.
Yeah.
It, it
Um,
it's kind of cool.
yeah.
One thing
But
I know I overall I thought the manual was good. Like there's a good intro story.
mhm.
It's full of hints.
But it is decidedly not an SSI manual.
It has not a graph. It has not a table. And you playing this again, you have no idea how much damage your weapons do. You get a sense from the prices and the adjectives. If it's shoddy, it's probably not as good as if it's
Yeah.
orgasmic or whatever. I don't think they use that, but
Oh, they
orgasmic
should.
knife. Yeah,
Orgasmic knife.
that's not okay. But
That's no.
oh, nice level up.
Yep. And this is how you
Uh,
level up too. You got to haul your butt back to this guy, and he goes, "Now you're level 3." Okay, thanks.
this minimum wage worker behind the
Yeah.
the gate.
One of the things I'm glad I finished this game as a kid for, since I didn't get to do it this time, I remember at the time the ending to this game is possibly one of the best endings to a game I played until then and for a long time after. Um, when you come and you talk to the caretaker the final time and give him the scroll back and get everything reset, you do this walk around the museum that takes you past all the exhibits and this whole like it builds like we're playing this from nostalgia, but in the game it then taps into nostalgia and walks you back through everything you did and
Right.
reminds you how you got here and how great it was that you did it, and you just get to relive all those things one more time.
Right,
And then
and
it
then you get your own exhibit in the museum.
yeah.
That's adorable. Like I that is really a good ending.
No, it was for a long time the best ending. And I think I finished this right after Ultima 3, which has possibly the worst ending I've ever had in a game.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Might and Magic 1 is up there though, but I think I finished that after this. Might and
I don't
Magic 1, I
remember
hated that ending.
I don't remember the ending to that one.
You kill the bad guy and he escapes or he's dead or you're not really sure. And then you go to the control room of the spaceship slash planet you're on, and they're like, okay, you're ready to journey on from here. Your journey on this world's over. Go here and unlock the gates to another world. And you walk up, and they're like, congratulations, you made it to gates to another world. You're ready for Might and Magic 2. And that's it. Like, no, just
Great.
buy our
Thanks.
next game. Thanks.
Wow. I mean I grew up playing Nintendo and they generally had the worst ending screens. Like
Oh, yeah.
congratulations, you won.
Yeah.
Now play it again, only
Play it
harder.
again. Right. Keep going.
Oh, thanks, Nintendo.
um, yeah. The hints upside down in the manual is a stroke of genius
Yeah, that is good. Um,
because they're there. You know you can get them, but if you're just looking at them, if you're just reading the manual, your brain is not going to read those notes. You
totally.
have to deliberately read those notes. I think that's really clever.
There's also in-game hints that you buy from the fortune teller, which I wish they were a little more like hints and a little less telling you things. Like
Yeah.
there's one that tells you like after you find the jub bush or the jeb bush or
Hmm.
whatever, the healer will help you. Like come on, like just give me a hint. Don't
Yeah.
tell me. Like
Yeah.
I mean I already knew, but
Right.
whatever.
Like herbs won't work without a special fruit. Like, okay, well, I got to find a special fruit. Wait, I thought I saw one back in the museum. Like something like that, where you got to at least piece a piece together yourself.
Right.
Yeah. The castle. We should talk about the castle.
Yep.
Because it's Questron again, where at least this time the caretaker hints that the castle is evil.
Yeah.
So you feel a little better about going in and murdering everyone
Right.
inside.
That's a theme in all these games too. Just like go into places, murder everyone. Very very little ramifications for doing that. It's fine.
But like, I remember Questron One's castle, and it being no joke,
Right.
and thinking to myself, okay, I've got to get a couple levels here before I can go do this castle. Now you just got to buy enough spells.
Right. It's
Then it's
all
done.
about it's all about fireball with those guards.
Yep.
And that's the thing too, like there's so many of them it feels intimidating, but really they're not that tough.
No, and that's what surprised me. It's such an easier castle than the Questron castle was. I'm not saying you can't get your butt handed to you. I'm just saying that come when you know who did this and you're playing the game and you're like, oh, I know what this is.
Mhm.
It's it's a different kind of thing.
I thought the Questron Castle was far richer too. In here, most
Yes.
when you go in for the first time, everyone's walled off. There's no one to really talk to. There's
Hmm.
chests everywhere, which is cool. And I mean,
Yeah.
obviously you're gonna loot those. Uh, but like in Questron, you'd talk to people, and then it would play those great Questron noises
Hmm.
at you, and it was fun and like
Yeah.
felt like you were exploring. Where here, I was just like, oh, I can't, I don't have the key,
Yeah. I
so I
don't have
just
the
left.
key.
Yeah, I'm not
The secret
strong enough.
doors were kind of cool. Um, but yeah, and I believe you get the first key from the caretaker, which means again your advancement is gated off.
Right.
I hate that. Like I
Me
just
too.
and then he gates off the second level because you need to talk to him to get the magic ice that lets you go over the moat to the second
Right.
level. So like there are things about this game that are really good, but a lot of your progression is not based on your skill. It's just based on when someone decides to sell you a coin. Um,
Yeah, like how to get to level 2 in this game. Go to a bunch of exhibits. Go to I think you have to go to the pirate cove and come back out, right?
you can do that to 3 as long as you get a coin. Basically, you need to get a coin, buy a coin off someone, come back, talk to him, and he'll make you level 2. Go to the pirate cove and come out, and that'll get you to level 3.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
then it kind of changes from there. Um,
And if it takes you 100 years to do those things, you're level 1 for 100 years, and if you do it in the first 10 minutes, you're level 3 in the first ten
yeah,
minutes.
you can never
It,
fight anything. You can never, yeah,
which is weird.
it's weird,
It's very weird.
right? I,
I think that's about all I have.
yeah, I'm just going through my notes here to see if there's anything else I want to get upset
Th-
about.
There's a bunch of spells, but man, I pretty much only used firebolt. One shoots down the hallway, one's close range, and then there's
Yeah.
like an instant kill spell. There's
Hmm.
a teleport to the museum spell. So the magic is pretty
Yeah.
interesting. It never gets any different. You never unlock another level,
No.
uh, and the only real dynamic thing about it is that your intelligence score causes them to fizzle sometimes.
Yeah. I will say the final castle, which I don't have footage of, sadly, is more interesting than Questron's final castle.
Oh,
There's a
okay.
couple little things you got to do in it where you use some of the stuff you got from other places, the magic seeds, the magic ice. Uh, when you go into the final castle, you're captured and thrown in jail,
Yeah.
and you got to figure your way out of the cell. You don't just, I mean, you do essentially just fight, but there's some tricks you got to do to get yourself out of the cell.
Yeah.
So this game is definitely a step up. They've definitely made some progressions, but they've also lost some of the charm.
Yeah.
So I will be interested. I think we'll probably, within our series of these, do Questron 2 next, just because let's do them in order.
Sure.
And then we'll do Legend of Black Silver sometime and find out if it really is the best game.
Yeah.
And if they left on a high note and vanished to the nowhere.
I know that's a sad story. The guy is on LinkedIn, Charles.
Yeah,
I think Charles
Doherty.
Doherty. Works at some uh, company in California as
Yeah.
a CIO or something. And man, I want that LinkedIn, but I didn't know what to say.
I've
I'm
reached
sure he
out a
gets
couple
nerds.
times. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he's sick of it. Like
Yeah.
I'll just leave him
That was
alone.
so many years ago. I don't care anymore. Yeah. I hope he
Yeah.
does. And I'd love to talk to him. I think these 4 games obviously meant a lot to you and me, and I'm sure they
Yeah,
meant a
they
lot
did.
to a lot of people. It'd be nice to hear some stories about them and get that on the record.
There's a good CRPG Addict article that
Hmm.
has an interview with him.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, seems like a nice guy and everything. I just like I probably should have at least tried to link in. My dream is to link in with someone who's not a recruiter, but we'll
Well,
see
I,
what
I
happens.
linked in with Catherine. I mean,
Yeah, me too.
yeah, so
That's my biggest LinkedIn success. Catherine from
Catherine from Seamus.
yep, and Baldur's Gate. Did she do Baldur's Gate?
Or what else? She did a bunch of stuff. She's done a lot of things. No,
what was the
Stronghold was the one
Stronghold
where.
she did? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right.
Give Catherine the numbers. That's how we first discovered Catherine was out there, and then
Yeah, it was an
have just
error
been in her
message in
fan club.
Stronghold.
Yep.
Yeah, yep,
Keeper of the numbers, Catherine.
both numbers.
Give her both. Don't
She's
give her
very,
one.
very clear about that.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
All right. Let's
I think that's it.
that's
Yeah,
that's all I've got to say about this. So I'm going to do one of these. Our
great
short
game.
games.
Go play it.
Yep. Our short games for next month. This month we're just doing two little quick ones from Snacking on Software and Michael Packard. Darkstar, Unhinged, and Oids Zone. Um, Basically, they're new Apple II games. So the platform is over 20 years old. The games are new. I'll be interested in just how well they play. I haven't tried them yet because they are short games. We only spend like a day or two on them. But
Yeah,
from
yeah. It
what
was
I've
so
seen, it's a Asteroids and a Defender clone. So
okay. Sounds like fun.
um,
And what's the long game?
the long game is Hacker.
Oh, okay.
Uh, Again, this year I'm going to try to find games that I think will have more interesting things to talk about.
Yeah,
And I'm hoping on this one. I remember playing it as a kid and not getting it, and then thinking about it as an adult and going, "Oh, I probably just didn't understand." Um,
yeah,
so we'll give this a try. We'll see how it goes.
yeah.
Maybe it's
Yeah,
not a long
looking forward to
game.
it.
Maybe it is. We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll definitely have something to say about it in a month.
Yes. And then in a
Death
weekish,
Lord.
more Death Lord. We should have a surprise mapped out for you.
Yes, yeah. We did get out of our pickle that we were in last
We
time,
got out of our pickle that we were in last time.
thanks to yet more save scumming.
Oh my god. So okay, like I want to do a little thing, and I'll put it on our play channel that shows people how to disband and reform a party. I got asked to show that.
Oh, okay.
One of the things about save scumming, if you look in the Deathlord quick reference card, if I've got mine, hang on. Yoink. Not the manual. Manual doesn't say anything. Quick reference card. There is uh, an option in the utilities to back up the character roster to another scenario disk.
Well, there you go.
They tell you in the instructions, save scum this, so
Mission accomplished.
mission accomplished. We're playing the game correctly, according to the instructions.
Right? You've got a piece of paper there. You can't argue with that.
Now, that's
It's in writing.
all the proof you need. All the proof you
Yep.
need. We're fine. Save scumming's fine. We basically, because save scumming was so hard back in the day, you would sometimes not do it. But I'm not saying I never did it as a kid.
Yeah.
We had 2 or 3 Deathlord scenario discs that we wrote basically like save disk and restore disk, and so we would switch around.
Yeah. Totally.
So, I should do this. I'm going to turn this off for a second. I'm going to put the video back on real quick, only because Stones of Wisdom is up.
Stones of Wisdom. Very good. 1, 2. Oh. Yeah, pretty clean interface.
Yeah.
Yeah, this thing is nicely polished. That's
Yeah.
a good looking. How's the AI in Stones of Wisdom for you?
Not bad.
Yeah,
I
pretty impressive.
I mostly won, but there were a couple times where I just got trounced, and Some of that's luck, which we've talked about in this game. There's a lot of this game that's tied to luck, but other parts, not so much.
Yeah.
So,
very, very good.
Anyway, just saw that going on the other screen. Thought I'd pop that out. I'll put the long game back up as we fade out of here. Because anything else? Anything? Matt's vanishing into the ethos.
No, I'm
the
good.
ether, not ethos. You're not vanishing into the ethos. That would be a cool trick.
Yeah.
I've either had too much coffee or not enough. We'll find
out. I'm vanishing into the pathos, though.
Into the pathos. Sounds good. All right. On that note, bye, everybody. We'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Big thank you to all of you watching, sharing, liking, subscribing, suggesting games, commenting on our videos, or supporting us on Patreon. We appreciate all of your support and look forward to sharing many more videos with you. Thank you again.